Welcome everyone. Greetings from Santa Barbara. This is Suk Dhalma. We're beaming out Tuesday, it's Monday. Monday healing. There'll be one on Tuesday too. And right at this moment, let's just gather our energy together. Follow the sound, let the sound take you deeper. This beautiful tambura. Let the sound drop you in. Nice deep breath. Just allowing the day to resolve, to roll out of your mind, down into the earth. Just feel that emptying of consciousness. Just opening up. In comes the mail. Down the mail slot. Just receiving. Right? Cosmic grace is always flowing. Cosmic grace is power. Cosmic power never needs to be justified, right? Just force needs to be justified. So breathe into your power. Be the warrior, not the worrier. That's today's theme. Life force is the powers, aligning with the deep force in the heart. Aligning with the earth, feeling this axis of the self right down the middle, relaxing brain. Letting peace just sort of find its way in, beautiful feeling, attracts the healing. Remember, consciousness is self-organizing. That suggests that on some level you don't have to do that much. You just have to allow it to be. So we breathe and we allow. It's like, let the real power come in. Not that clever, conjured up mental agitation. Just relax brain and drop into the heart. And add some oxygen. We are a rotating toroidal field of incredible consciousness. Just, there you are, this vortex of consciousness and power. And at the center of which it's a very steady, calm interior, made out of peace. Everything we want comes from that place. We're just aligning with that place. Beautiful peace. Right now, not much mind. You can just relax mind for a while. Be like the sentinel, standing tall. The warrior makes herself or himself visible, right? Standing there, great presence, observation, standing tall. The opposite, let's say if that's the north and you're standing, then the opposite is lying down in the south, which we could understand as the polarity of the healer. Because up until now, it seems the healer and the warrior are working for different departments. It's almost like the warrior is working for the Department of Protection and Fear, and the healer, or people in that realm, are working towards love, Right now there may be warriors working towards love and healers working towards protection, but my thought is to blend the two together. That looks like the future to me, right? Warriors are there to protect what's been, right? And it seems like what's been going on is not going to be. It's changing. And so what kind of warriors do we need for the future? Seems to be more in the category of the shaman, right? Because the world is at loggerheads. I've never seen such divisiveness, right? This compressing of the polarities where nobody goes anywhere. And what usually happens when there's a compression of polarities is a third comes into being. Somehow this questing impulse yields something new. For example, you have a husband and a wife, and there's only so much that they can come together, right? They have to pull back apart because they live in different bodies. But what would be the irreconcilable fruit? Would be the baby that comes forth, right? The new thing that comes forth, the new deal, right? The new understanding, the new way. So we're just gonna allow for that, like this, where we might feel at loggerheads, where we might feel compressed and stuck and blocked and can't go forward. Sort of the warrior, healer, shaman link is a transcendental link, right? It takes us transcendental function. That's what actually Jung calls it. When you have two irreconcilables, the transcendental function kicks in and there's a solution, something new. So for immediate practicality, every time we sit and meditate, there it is, you have something new, right? The irreconcilability of your mind and your body, the irreconcilability of whatever might just have happened in your life. And you bring this sort of compression to bear to stillness and silence. It's sort of like dropping sugar into hot water. It just sort of melts, it sort of dissolves. So we're just going to feel that dissolution as we kind of merge into consciousness, relaxing brain, relaxing the narrative, relaxing the story. It just wants to grab us. Breaking news in your brain. So we're just going to ease off the breaking news, drop into the good news of the inner screen. Seems like a very different place than the outer movie going on right now. And we want to make that inner screen the 51% screen, meaning you are the major shareholder of that perspective, of that inside-out anchoring, that sort of shamanic meditation, which is a kind of warrior posture of sorts, right? You're standing, you're sitting tall, you're aligned. There's kind of a Gandhian stiffness to it, meaning satyagraha. Gandhi talked about being solid, being like this pillar, right? That the radical factions or forces that could knock you over can't knock you over in that posture. Truth force. So this is a kind of warriorship. You can think of great beings in the past who've manifested their warriorship in different ways. But really the question is, how do you want to be not the worrier, but the warrior? Connected to the transcendental dimension, so there's not this pressure buildup that creates pain and suffering and limitation. In a sense, we kind of want to release that pressure up through the top, up into the more subtle dimensions. Let's just notice that in the body at the moment. We're breathing. As the mind quiets. You are this pillar, sort of rod of God. And there might be a lot of thoughts, but you don't want to squash your thoughts. Bad idea. The great Saint Bhagwan Nityananda says that's like adding trouble to trouble. And he said, well, what's the solution? Well, Baba, Bhagwan would say, well, you want to redirect your thoughts. Right? Give them a job. Send them out skating. Give them something to do rather than just go, blah, 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 blah. Right? Empower your thoughts. Interesting thought. So if you're having thoughts that are kind of like stray cats, stray vectors, give them meaning, give them importance. Power comes from meaning. When there's purpose, you salute your flag or you do whatever it is that gives you that power. If you're meaning, you feel lost, you wind up using force, right? Because force comes from self-doubt, ultimately, right? It's a weak posture, it's a weak position, it's the action of tyrants, which is the shadow of the warrior, right? So the good warrior, and then its opposite, the tyrant, right? So, without being political, why would we be saying these things? Okay, so here's my vision of the future, and it's based on a story when I used to teach English at a school years and years ago. The director that was in charge of the program moved to Oregon, and half of the teachers in the school did not have a supervisor. No central power controlling us. So instead of having this sort of whiny person whining at us every morning, why are you late? Come on, get going, blah, 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 treating us like children, with no boss, everyone was there on time, feeling better, more empowered. It was kind of amazing. So let's take that analogy for a minute, and let's say in this world of centralized power, let's say it broke down into communities and tribes, where everyone had to take care of themselves, no boss patrolling the halls. Think of all the trouble that is resolved, right? No need for nuclear weapons, no need for armies. Basically, all this stuff is not necessary. So let's just meditate on that for a minute. What would that mean if you are completely empowered to lead your own community? Right? No overlords. That's kind of like the body, right? You're in charge of this community, and yet there's an overlord. But this boss is a good one. So let's just drop into the alignment with the refinement, the cosmic designment of you and I linking to that cosmic power, and just feel it in the body. Breathe into it. Pure, authentic flow. No force necessary. No friction of contradiction. We just bless. What if the policeman blessed you? What if the warriors were professional blessers? I can only imagine. Power versus force. Let's just notice the difference in your body, the authentic power, No need for force. That means we need to breathe, clear the fear, which is really a disconnect from the Supreme Self, which is excitement without breath, which is a kind of misperception, projection of enemy image, snake in a rope. Just clearing the fear. Coming to peace. The opposite of fear is love. Just feeling the love. Just relaxing any fear in your body, just letting it go. The future does not exist. It's only now, as the power is now. The past is gone. Just floating here in the power. Letting the sounds quiet the mind. Deep breath through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. Let's do about 5 of those. Don't breathe too fast. Just the right amount of oxygen and prana coming in through the nose and then exhaling through the mouth. It's a way of refreshing the brain, clearing the body of toxic smog. Here we go. Inhaling. Exhaling. Inhaling. Exhaling. Inhaling. Exhaling. So when we breathe like that, we're amplifying the cellular electricity, amplifying the consciousness that circulates. Which creates feeling waves. The breath has a shape, creates a wave that turns into a feeling, which then creates a spin ratio, which then pulls energy out of the vacuum. It pulls cosmic love and amazingness out of that 0-point center in the black hole of the heart. All from the breath, ultimately. In a sense, it's alkalinizing us. It's like bringing us out of this heavier, weighty situation, bringing you up into the more celestial overtones of consciousness. You could say into a larger Lorentz attractor, which is kind of like chaos in disguise, right? You look around and see all this chaos, but people who study nonlinear equations would say, well, it looks like that, but really it's a Lorentz attractor. It's this beautiful butterfly-shaped flow thing that, well, when I was thinking about it earlier, it was like that octopus in my octopus teacher is hiding behind all these shells, and then suddenly explodes out of that. I'm just noticing that consciousness is phenomenal. Breathing into it. Just exploding out of your density. There's the little twinkling sound again. We can hear this. Oh, there's the car horn. Well, I'll wait till that's done. That's sort of like when there's a lot of light, sometimes the darkness likes to come and like kind of create edge. Try to make beautiful overtones and then gross level vehicles are interfering. Aha. Of course, when I try to make those sounds, I can't. So there's an example of power versus force. When you try too hard, it's bad, not good. Oh, there it is. It must be the way it's positioned. And I don't know if you can hear that. Around the third string, every once in a while it makes this sort of sublime overtone. And consciousness is also understood as a set of sublime overtones. So which octave are you vibrating in would be a question. So in the atomic table way of thinking, we have hydrogen, helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, radon. So just notice that all your chakras are anchored in the inertia of noble gases. And so as a warrior, that's what we can do. We can anchor in the inertia of the noble gases because everything else is moving. The mind moves, right? So the mind creates the universe. It's because of the mind we're all here. But it's all anchored in that love. So just noticing your mind for a minute. Mind over matter. If you don't mind it, it don't matter. Most healing that's projected remotely or over the phone or even just sitting with someone, that's going on. Now here's a beautiful piece of information. In the Indian scriptures, from India that is, and other different treatises from various traditions and religions, describe that the Supreme Self is different than this world, right? There's a metaphysical difference. And I teach this, I resonate with that there's a part of us that's watching, that's beyond this situation. But traditionally in Indian philosophy, the self didn't have a lot of power. The power was attributed to Shakti, to Prakriti in the original. There's Purusha and Prakriti, right? There's a split, there's a duality. So the original philosophy is based on a duality, not a unity principle. And so later Indian philosophers had to resolve that because their experience was unity. They were like, this is not a duality reality, this is an interconnected thing. And so what they did was, at least in certain scriptures in northern India, in the Kashmir Shaiva tradition, the Tantrika traditions, they evolved the principle of spanda. And what spanda is, it's sort of like if you burp, that's a kind of a spanda, where you sound, something just boop, pops out of nowhere. It's kind of like the word itself, right? So onomatopoetic thing, spanda. This is a spanda, a throb. We're just going to feel that throb in the heart. And from the philosophical point of view, that throb is what connects the self into 3D, 4D space, so that the self is radiating the spanda power. You could say the self is influencing the world from that philosophical perspective versus when you're just a witness, and it's like angels can't turn off faucets kind of thing. Can't really get into the physical world with that transcendental astral body. But this idea of spanda actually is like a network bridge that links the deep transcendental with this flowering of 3D space and time. So let's just notice that you can actually feel this spanda as pure desire. Pure desire. We know this, right? You go into a grocery store and you don't know what you want to buy yet, but you want something. Oh, now I want tuna fish. Or no. Watermelon. So what is that desire? First it started deep down as like this throb. You didn't have any identification with it. It was just this impulse to a longing. And then it hits these other layers where it translates into I want fill in the blank, right? I want that. So that process of spanda, the mystics use that understanding to take that sound and track it back, right? So you go back into the desire matrix. So consider something you want in this moment, right? Whatever it is, just tune into your desire and just feel what do you feel? So what do you want from this world in this moment? Maybe you just want peace. Maybe you want a house. Whatever it is, don't worry about the object of desire in this moment. Track it back to the spanda principle, to this throb, to this thing that's like, I want. Because when you get down into the spanda, it's like God will responda, meaning you're in this deep matrix of power at that level where it's non-verbal. It's not even emotional yet, right? It's deeper. It's like this pure thing. So let's clear mind right now. I'm just going to tune into spanda. Throb. Just feel that yearning, that longing. We all have that for something. You want love, you want connection, you want touch, you want food, you want shelter. We have needs. But where do we live? Mostly is on the surface of I want that thing, right? So you're mostly thinking about the thing. I want that thing. Oh, so much. But then when you want that thing so much and maybe you can't have it, or it's not available, Amazon is out of stock, or that guy's married, or whatever it is, can't have it. So what do? Well, this is useful information. We just drop back down into the spanda assembly. Back where that desire came from. Just track it back a bit, just into the place of pure desire. What a concept. Just pure desire. Desire without an object, kind of just pure desire. It feels kind of like love to me. Just feel that love, feel that longing, A beautiful feeling. Would it be safe to say that despite the form, no matter what it is, beauty is beauty, shining through whatever it is? That's a kind of power. Power versus Force is a great book by Dr. David Hawkins. Highly recommend it. I once gave that book to a senior diplomat at the State Department when the families were meeting to figure out remuneration for my father being a hostage. So we were up in Condoleezza Rice's 7th floor waiting area office meeting place. And I gave this book to Nicholas Burns, who had been the ambassador to Yugoslavia at one point. I think he teaches at Harvard now. And he wrote me a really nice letter later. But I told him, read the chapter on politics in Power versus Force. I think you'll find it useful. And he did. And what was really, really interesting was within 3 months, there was a CNN special with all the secretaries of state that were still alive. They were all talking about power versus force. And I've never seen them talk about it before. So they were talking about soft power versus hard power was their languaging. But it was interesting how that we're all connecting at the same time into those principles. Let's just again feel this power versus force. We tend to use force, don't we? Often. We want something, we're in a rush. Right, gotta have it now. Oh, that's not working, force it. Oh, I broke it. Oh, look what happens when you force things, right? People just get mad at you. Breathing. It's like that longing, that desire is the Kundalini Shakti energy. Sort of welling up inside of us. Whichever chakra happens to be penetrating, that's where the desires may be unfolding. I think it was Walt Whitman who said, we convince by our presence. In other words, we don't have to do fancy dancy stuff to show off or pretend we have some kind of power that's whatever that is, right? Just pure beingness is very satisfying in and of itself. But that's not usually relishable until we get to a larger space where there's space around that feeling. Now let's just take a couple minutes totally quiet. Breathing through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. A hero's journey, right? We're all the warrior, where the ego is the journey person. You'll be familiar with Joseph Campbell's understanding of the hero's journey. Right now in Congress, they're working out the Heroes Act in the month of Libra, right? The balancing of the scales. Let's look at this journey for a minute. Let's say we start at 12 o'clock and we travel all the way around to get home. But at a certain point at 5:59, we're quite far away from home, right? We're furthest point of alienation. You're a split off part, cut off from the source kind of feeling. That's lot 49. Thomas Pynchon wrote a book about it. The crying of lot 49. Like, oh! 49% is not a powerful position, right? You lose the election, you drown in the pond. It's like it's over your head. So, but the 51% brings the water level down below your face, right? It gives you a lift, right? You're in a different posture, a different position. You're the CEO, you're the major shareholder. And so what is that? We've crossed from lot 49 into 602 or whatever. That's you're moving now home towards the 12. You're going back home. I think a lot of people are in lot 49 right now. They're totally alienated from themselves, right? They don't meditate. Maybe they're drinking too much. They're living in fear. The future is grim. Whatever, right? Lots of folks really at their wits' end. That is like a pressure bubble, right? It needs to, like, something needs to give. And if you watch the astrologers this month, they're saying, this is the month where something's going to give, whatever that means. So, I'm not even going to try to guess what that is. But let's say in your own consciousness, maybe you'll have an experience of what's coming up. Like, what is this pressure that's building and building and building? With the planets especially. And then there's this, certain planets are suggesting very sudden revelations happening, sudden things, deep secrets coming to the surface, right? It's almost as if the whole culture is meditating right now. Right? They're not having such a great meditation, but sometimes meditations are, you're working it, right? And then really you get the bliss later in the day, or it bears fruit through your steady discipline. So let's just notice the Ashtanga Yoga principles here for a minute. Ashtanga Yoga, the 8-limbed yoga, the King Yoga, Raja Yoga, right? That's real warrior yoga. You see these guys, right? I've done it. You've probably done it. Ashtanga Yoga. So the first 4 are essentially about the external situation, right? It's like self-restraint, right posture, right breath. What's the other one? Kind of an external preparation. And then you move into sense withdrawal, concentration, meditation, union with God. Right? So sort of 4 to get ready for bed, get ready for meditation, and then the 4 that sort of take you into the black hole of bliss. And so that whole yoga is designed to do what we're talking about, right? Just to be able to just drop into that spanda, drop into that place of power. We think when people die and leave their bodies, they have no more power. But spanda would suggest otherwise. Hence the Ruth Bader Ginsburg effect on current reality. So you never know who's pulling the strings from where. So sometimes we're more powerful without a body, evidently. So good news is that you can do that with a body. You don't need to leave the body. So since we're in our body, let's just feel super powerful beyond the body. Just blaze through the body. You're not the body ultimately anyway, so this wondrous meat package is there to assist us in transport. So we're just feeling this cosmic spanda self. Not only are we witnessing what's happening, but we're affecting what's happening. And I believe that the stiller you are, the more you affect it. So people running around with billy clubs and microphones might think they're changing reality more than you, but I don't think so. I think the stiller we are, the more profound a field that comes out of us. And then every little thought you think actually jangs into being somehow, right? Because you're operating at a larger Lorentz attractor field. So that would be another thought, that as you meditate more and more, as you acquire more yogic power ultimately, more personal power, we're not talking ego here, it's the Lorentz attractor field, this non-linear equation that we are, sort of jumps into various levels of potency, which is why like a Siddha Guru could affect millions of people, right? Or the president, or important people hold big power, right? So the biggest power seems to be, not this external power, right? Because that external power on some level is in response to control and fear and protection and kind of fight flight universe. But the power that responds to love, the power that is birthed in love, that is engineered by love, it creates that flowering of the field of love. That's the different power. That's what we're doing here. So in a sense, you have more political potency not being political. Because then you're within the polarities, you're not like creating more polarity. The neutral positive, it's like you become everything, and then you just be it, and then how you see it, think it, feel it, enable it, imagine it, that starts to take effect through the amplitude wave that just comes out of this beautiful field state, the standing wave of peace that you've become, right? This beautiful standing wave of peace. What a great thought. You are a standing wave of peace. Outstanding. So we'll wave at you. Okay, let's drop back in. Do a little more kind of deep polish. Softening. Breathe through the nose and soften. Ego makes us hard and edgy and nasty and mean, right? But bliss love makes you vulnerable and soft. And yet that vulnerability and that softness is so powerful. Just feeling that vulnerability and softness as you drop into your heart. Lighter than the bones, more gentle than a peacock wand, soft like butterfly wings. And yet you can be as hard as a rock. Vibrate like that, you might feel the eyes start to flutter. They want to roll up into consciousness. There's like a theta wave kicks in, a little more alpha activity, a more rapid eye movement, like a dreamscape. As you shift into a deeper state, these are actually different states that we go into. We know this from going to sleep, right? When you're asleep, you're gone. You are in another state. So even the in-between states are different, right? This alpha, theta, as we drop in. There's another state, a gamma wave state, which is like 45 hertz. It'll be if you're landing planes in the air traffic control tower, you're probably operating with a gamma frequency that's highly functional. But you may not feel like you're in bliss. But you're probably getting paid a lot of money. And millions of people are really happy you landed them safely. So, but we're not doing gamma today. Just going to drop into am I. Am I. I am. just noticing, like, what download did you just get? What I find happens is my thoughts kind of slow down into sort of a nothing thing. And then like 10 super speed of light thoughts happen out of that. It's like when you hit that iPhone button wrong, it takes 20 pictures. Oops. But that happens. They're speed of light thoughts. They're no longer going 200 miles an hour, right? They suddenly are back into the flash basket. So these speed of light intuitive thoughts, in my experience, 20 years doing intuitive work, right? You want that intuitive flash to give you, it's like a complete graphic. It's like a complete symphony comes down, just like Mozart probably did it, right? He didn't change a note. He had the dish satellite in place to grab that whole thing, right? So meditation, in a sense, is a kind of dish satellite prep, right? It's sort of like, you're like this lotus, you sit for meditation and you're all closed up and you're stressed. And then your little flower petals start to open, right? And you're sort of this big lotus blossom. And that is essentially kind of satellite dish, right? You're going to get all kinds of drop-ins, right? Mary Poppins, just dropping in. Pew! Depending on what you think about, what you love, it will find those costumes. And you can just request that kind of information in advance, right? A meditation is kind of a communication with the divine. Ultimately, you could read it like that. You could just talk to God the whole time. But then it depends on what you mean by that, right? So communicating with the Supreme doesn't have to involve words. It can just be you're basking in the glow, right? It's just this beautiful feeling. And that contains a lot of information, a lot of transformative, a lot of power and Shakti. So when you bring that energy to another situation, you're not meditating at that point in the same way, but you're still radiating from that. And people are like, wow, what did you do this weekend, right? They feel it, right? Shakti has particles to it. It just literally comes out. So let's breathe again. Come back to that center. I'm going to play some music in a minute. Maybe just in this next minute, just gather some of what you liked about whatever you heard or experienced inside out, so that you remember it. Gather it together. Bookmark those pages. I just got a little sponda to tell you what my process is with how I prepare for this. And essentially, it starts usually the week before. I got a text from someone saying, can you talk about being a warrior? Because that's all I'm thinking about. And I thought, wow, that's perfect, because the astrologers were talking about the proper use of power and defending power. So it's this whole month's about power. And so that's usually how it starts. I start with a topic. And you might notice this yourself when you're researching anything, that you just sort of magically find things. They just fall out of shelves. Or you could look at a group of books, but you only see one, and that's the book that you want to read. Open it up and get that quote out of, or stimulate your mind. And it just starts to come out of the woodwork, all of these different ideas. And then what I do, even if it's not just for presenting on Facebook Live, I just like to mull these ideas and work with them on paper and sort of process them, come up with new ideas based on these ideas, make connections. Like that whole thing about the warrior and the healer. I was already seeing it in that sort of mandala, But then it occurred to me, wow, the solution is really to bring them together, right? So that would be the kind of the fruit of that kind of meditation. So then I write them down in lots of little pages, and then I just process with them over a few days and it kind of internalize. And then I usually have a few of these pages here in case I lose my train of thought, but essentially I've internalized it, and so I just flow with it, right? It's just already processing in there to share. And then I might go, okay, what did I not say that I meant to say? And I might look over what I have here. But for the most part, what I love about it is we are downloaders. We do channeling, it might not be the right word. It's because it's not another entity. It's really you, but it's you coming through in a clear, meditative, deep way, right? We all have access to flow. And then really, if I can, be an example of that, that's what we can do, right? We can sort of internalize stuff and then flow with it. And then the universe comes up with new variations. So I say half of what I say, I didn't even mean to say in terms of preparation, right? But that's the beauty of not memorizing it, not necessarily even having an order to it. It's more like, okay, here's a palette of great thoughts that all connect to what I'm talking about. And then as we meditate, as we move through it, oh, this one wants to be expressed. Oh, this one is now flashing its colors. So as an intuitive method, aside from just meditating, someone once said, oh, it's a SIM card, the Sudama intuitive method. That sounds good. So yes, it's an intuitive method, and the most profound thought for that is really that you're going to get the answer you're looking for, and it's going to flash, and it usually happens so fast you don't notice it. That's why not everyone would say that they're a professional intuitive, right? Because they miss a lot of that stuff. They're still thinking about it or something. But there is a way to sort of get on top of that ball flashing past you, right? You can catch it at high speed. And then it's like, wow, look what God just gave me. Look at this incredible seed that just showed up. So Octavio Paz, the poet, same principle. He writes his poems based on what is the seed gift he gets as he starts to write, right? Something comes in that's holonomic, holographic. It's a tiny thing, but it contains a whole universe. So, last time I played a little Malkosh. It's a raga of Shiva, of the air, of the vacuum. It's sort of like where these things that we download come from, of transcendental space. So I'm just going to work that vacuum a little bit with sound. you to stay in meditation for a while. Just let that little sitar journey take you even deeper. Namaste. I'll see you all tomorrow. Part 2 will continue with this theme. Have a great evening.